I wanted to talk about a few things, all the way from my childhood, all the way through to the point where I'm talking in front of the people. What I want to talk about basically is my beginning and how I started out. I was a very average child. I don't think that I was exceptional in any way. I remember picking up a pencil very, very young. I don't think I was more than 4 or 5 years old. I was fascinated with paper and pencil. And I remember an aunt, Lucy, that stood over me one day in the kitchen in my grandfather's house, and she looked down at what I was doing, and she says, "This kid's going to be an artist." And look at me 65 years later. I mean, that's what I ended up being, a designer, which is an artist. And I've always had that special ability to be able to use other people's minds and bring their thoughts onto paper. And that came possibly from when my father used to tell me when I was only in, I think it was 9 or 10 years old, you don't copy. And I had that in my mind, you don't copy. So that was another thing that registered in me very strongly. So as the years went by, I went to school and went into high school, and I loved artwork, and I loved my art classes more than I loved anything else. I was a very poor student and everything else. In fact, my English subject I had to repeat in my senior year because I did so poorly in my junior year. So I had to repeat it, but I did find out something in my senior year that I had retained something from the junior year. And so I wasn't stupid. I just was lazy, I think, you know? And I was dyslexic. I couldn't see well. They didn't discover that I didn't have good vision until I was in my senior year in high school. In fact, it was fully discovered when I went in the military and when they did a colorblind test. And they said, "You're colorblind." And I didn't realize I was colorblind. I didn't know. My father used to say, "You don't know your colors." I would put brown leaves on trees and stuff like that, and he would make fun of my drawings and stuff that I made because I didn't know the colors. I just picked out what I thought was green. It was brown. But it ended up where he did let me draw all the paintings in my house, in my room, and that I slept in, and he let me paint on the walls. He never restricted me from doing that, and I did all kind of ships, and ironically, I did one across an entire wall, a South Sea Island picture with palm trees. Here I am living in Thailand, where it's all palm trees. Who was the instigator of that image in my head? You never know. And so my father passed away, and I had to get work. And my mother was looking at a newspaper on Sunday morning and said, "They're hiring people at Coral Incorporated in Providence. We should go and try to see if we can get a job," because we had no income. My father had debts, and my mother had to pay some of them. Some were actually what do they call it when they forgiven? They were forgiven, and she didn't have to pay them. But we went to work, and we both got a job the same day. And I was just an apprentice, not an apprentice. I was a stock boy, and that's how it started. Little did I know what path I would be taking. It would be quite an interesting path.